Field, and I am here with the Boston Parks Department, Parks and Recreation, and we're here to welcome you to the Ryan Playground first community meeting. This is the first of 3 meetings that we're going to be having for this project, and this is really to talk to you in the community and understand how you use the playground, what you'd like to see done with it, what you'd like to see remain, and all of the information that you have for us, who uses it, etc. So I want to thank you for coming tonight. We understand this is taking time out of your schedule, so we really appreciate it. I also want to let you know that this meeting is being recorded so that we can install it later on our website. This way people who can't attend this meeting can take a look and be involved. It will probably be up on our website within 1 week, just about then. I'm here tonight with Christine Brandeo, who is our Community Outreach Coordinator at Parks, and Rob Rotenbucher, who is the Chief Engineer at Parks, and Christine Wilson and Aaron Kramer from the design team, Copley Wolf Design Group. If you go to the next slide, Christine, here's a little how-to for Zoom. We're going to be showing you our presentation first, and at the end, we're going to have a discussion. And at that point, we're going to respond to your questions and ask some questions of our own and really have more of a conversation. So during that time, we have 2 ways to interact. We're showing you the directions on your screen if you're looking at a computer. And if anyone is joining us on the phone, if you're going to call in and ask a question, you dial 9 to raise your hand, sorry, *9 to raise your hand, and *6 to mute and unmute. If you're raising your hand, Christine will then unmute you if you're using the computer, the Zoom interface. And then you can ask your question during the Q&A. If you want to ask us questions during this webinar, you can enter the questions in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen on the bottom right. Just type them in and we will address those at the end of the session when we're having our conversation. So after tonight's meeting, we hope that you will continue to give us feedback by filling out a survey. We're going to give you the link to that at the end of the presentation, but that's really valuable. You can share that with your friends and neighbors. It gives us a lot of information to go off of. We collect some information tonight, but this allows us to reach other people beyond who's just able to attend this meeting. So it's really, really helpful for us to gather information to see what you want to be done with this park. So if we have any elected officials here tonight, we don't have any maybe yet, but we will welcome them if they show up. So right now, just to give you guys a sense, we've got 17 people in our audience. So part of the Zoom webinar is you guys who are attending the meeting can't see each other. So I'd just like to let you know we've got 17 people here. So that's a good group, and hopefully we'll be getting more as the evening goes on. So next slide, please. So here's our agenda for tonight. We've got the project team introduction, and then we're going to go into the overview of the project, sort of the schedule, then address the presentation, sort of what we've looked at, what we can tell from the existing conditions, and then sort of talk about inspiration for what we've considered, what we see in other playgrounds, what you might like to see. And then we have our community feedback and discussion, and then closing remarks and next steps. Next slide. So I am B. Chatfield, project manager. Here is all of my contact information. So please let me know if you have any questions, if you want to get in touch. Here's my email, my phone number. I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. Christine Brandeo, there is her contact information as well, outreach coordinator. Christine Wilson and Aaron Kramer. I will convey any questions to them. So please, I'm the main point of contact here. And then we're also working with Patrick Fandel, who is our Office of Neighborhood Services rep, who is fantastic. Maybe a lot of you know him out there, very active. And there's his contact information as well. Next slide. So our project schedule, this is our first community meeting. So this is where I said before, we're coming to you to say, how do you use this place and what would you really like to see here? This is the first of 3 meetings. So first one is now in December. The second one, we're going to come back to you with a few concept alternatives, which is sort of like, we're thinking this. What do you think about that? What do you like about this design? That's more of a design intensive meeting. And then the last one that we're going to be coming to you with, meeting 3, is this is what we think the preferred design is based on your feedback from meeting 2. What do you guys think? Did we get it right? If we get it right, then we move forward into construction documents. And that means we would be starting construction late fall of 2021 and hopefully opening summer of 2022, which would mean that hopefully the spray equipment would be available for hot summertime. Next slide, please. So the way Parks approaches design, it's really sort of 4 main ingredients that we're looking at. And I sort of think of this as 4 main ingredients, and the chef is the design group, right? So we have the City of Boston priorities that we have to take into account. We have safety guidelines and regulatory guidelines that are always part of everything that we do. We have community input, which is another highly important piece of what we do. And then we have the Parks and Recreation goals, you know, what we have as our own agency. And we bring that all together. The design team adds their magic to it, and we come up with a park design. Next slide, please. So the City of Boston priorities are expanding walkable access to parks. Boston already does a fantastic job with this, with I think every resident is within a 10-minute walk to a park, and we're always trying to make that better. We're trying to address equity as well, upgrading playgrounds and creating playgrounds in neighborhoods that haven't had them for a while or don't have them right now. Trying to improve climate resilience. So, you know, with increased rainfall and different types of storms hitting the coast, we're going to be seeing a change in what our environment is experiencing. And so trying to reduce impervious surfaces. So reducing the amount of paved surfaces so the ground can absorb rainwater. Trying to increase trees, you know, so that we have more shade, cooling things off in the summertime. All of those are really important. Increasing sort of community health and community building as well, sort of creating spaces for the public so that they can get to know each other, you know, creating communities in that way. So the Parks and Recreation goals, accessible and available to all, creating spaces where we have these spaces where everybody can get to and interact. A diverse, balanced, and efficient mix of uses within those spaces. So not only is that within one park, we don't want 2 sets of swings, but it's sort of like if you have one group of activities in a park, you don't want to recreate what that park down the street has, you know, so we try and take a big picture look at the area as well. We try and create meaningful and inclusive community engagement. So that's, we reach out to you and we try and get as many of you to give us community feedback about what you want to see. Create adaptive and resilient landscapes and promote connections as well. So that's, again, sort of inter-community connections that happen at parks and around parks. Next slide, please. So I'm going to hand this off to the design team, and Christine is going to walk you through the next portion of our presentation. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, Bea. So my name is Christine Wilson. I'm a landscape architect with Copley Wolf Design Group, and I'm so thrilled to be here tonight. I wish I could be with you in person, but hello virtually. I'm going to take us through what the design team has kind of already looked at as far as assessing the site, looking at the existing conditions, and then I'll be talking about some playground inspiration before we open it up for a general discussion with you all. So first, where is this playground located? So this Robert F. Ryan playground is located in Dorchester. So over, I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but just kind of southwest of Moakley Park, Carson Beach, you know, to the west of UMass Boston, which is kind of just west of the I-93 corridor. So let's take a look at like a half-mile radius around the playground. So 10-15-minute walk. To the north, we have Columbus Park, Andrew Square. It's actually a little further north, kind of the core of it. We have Newmarket, we have Upham's Corner further west, and Jones Hill, and then of course Savin Hill to the southeast. And then straight east is Boston College High School, and then out on the peninsula, UMass Boston. So this is Columbia Road, south of Columbia Road, in the Columbia Road Savin Hill neighborhood is what a lot of people refer to as this neighborhood if you're not from this area. The playground's on right on Dorchester Avenue that runs north-south. So then looking at open space, Joe Moakley Park to the northwest, I mentioned right where Carson's Beach is. That's kind of the largest open space in the kind of immediate area. There's down to the south to where Savin Hills, there's Savin Hill Park, Patton's Cove. There's a couple playgrounds in the area, Meany Playground, Melvin Side Play Area, Downer Avenue Playground. And so what we're looking at here is, there's not a lot of open space right along the Dorchester Ave corridor to the kind of south of this playground. And this is notable because, like Bea mentioned earlier, um, what's great about open space there's an opportunity also for the tree canopy as well. I'll talk about that a little bit later on, but trees help with the cooling. We're experiencing increased temperatures in the summer due to urban heat island effect. This urban landscape, there's not a ton of open space if you look in this area. So that's why this playground in this particular site is very special. Also, as far as like environmental considerations is stormwater flooding and sea level rise. This is tucked inland a little bit, so that kind of brighter blue color you see, that's anticipated sea level rise 50 years from now, which is important as far as planning purposes. And then also looking at kind of stormwater flooding inland. What this site in particular is a little bit of a high spot, but of course, as Bea kind of hit on, the pervious surfaces, be able to treat stormwater, rainwater falling directly on the site, letting it infiltrate into the ground, helps reduce the amount of stormwater that's going into the system. That's being contributed in the system that could carry pollutants out into the nearby ocean. So again, tree canopy and pervious surface is notable in this area due to kind of the urban condition it's in. How do you get to this park? Well, if you live right within this half-mile radius, you probably walk to it. If you're outside the neighborhood, there's a couple options as far as public transportation. This map here is showing the bus lines in yellow. Route 18 goes up and down Dorchester Avenue. And then there's commuter rails to the east and to the west, with stops at, JFK UMass and over at Upham's Corner. And then there's the Red Line, which is that JFK UMass stop in Savin Hill. You could get off there and walk to the park. Blue Bike, you could bike too. Those are kind of the blue nodes there. There's a Blue Bike station right outside this playground. So zooming in, okay, so we are on Dorchester Avenue, as I mentioned, at the cross street of Harborview Street, and then Grant Street is to the east. And so there's actually a bus stop up at Cottage Street and Howe Street for that 18 bus route. So going back, site history, what was this site before it was a playground? It was actually a school site. It was first built in 1873 to early 1880s, and it was first the Everett Primary School. Then it became the Harborview Street School, still primary elementary education. And then eventually it was renamed to the Cora L. Etheridge School. And that was named after one of the assistants who worked at the school. And so you can see it's that same parcel on the corner of Dorchester and Harborview Street. The main building is the one with the wings, and then this more small portable building on the site as well. And this is a photo here from 1953. Shortly after that, it was became a playground site, and it was named after Robert F. Ryan, who was a World War II vet, and then became the commander of VFW Post 7604. And he was known for his community activism and for his work in support of improved playgrounds for neighborhood children. And I read that right off of the plaque that's at the site today by the main entrance. So the playground has gone through a number of improvements and iterations. The last kind of redesign of it took place in 2004. And so that's what we're looking at today. If you go out to this site, here it is. And around it on Dorchester Avenue, kind of across the street from the main entrance, there is on the corner a business plaza with a tailor, barber, art shop. It's a bunch of little businesses in that building. And then up above that, Dorchester Market and Tom English's bar, those have come down recently for a new mixed use development. Then there's the Little House Alternative School, the condominiums, the NDA lofts to the north, and a hall space gallery. And then to the south, across Harborview Street, there's the Dorchester Baptist Church. And then the rest of the neighborhood, this is just kind of looking at with land use colors. The rest of the parcels are single family, multifamily houses, residential. So talking about how to get there, we went over kind of the bus stops and the blue line. I mean, not the blue line, sorry, the blue bikes. This is that blue bike stop right outside that main entrance on Dorchester Avenue. Dorchester Avenue is two-way. It's a main street with street parking on either side. The side streets are all one-ways, and these arrows show which direction they're moving in. They have street parking as well. And then as far as the entrances into the park, the park is mostly surrounded by a fence, but there are 3 points in which you can get in. There's the entrance off of Dorchester Avenue, where there's that really large gateway structure. And then on Harborview Street, there's the ramp and then a set of stairs adjacent to it. And here's some pictures of it. So here are the stairs up off of Dorchester Avenue and the ramp and the stairs off of Harborview Street. And so one thing to note here is that it's tough to get into if you're in a wheelchair or with a stroller, or if you have a walker or anything, because of these stairs, and this ramp is really steep. So one part of this project is really looking at improving the inclusivity of the space and creating entrances where you can, no matter what your kind of mobile condition is, that you can easily access the space. Tree health. We're working with a licensed arborist, and they've gone out and they have assessed the health of the trees. So the ones in green there are in great condition. The ones in yellow, not so much, and the ones in red are really kind of poor health. So we're looking at that, as well as looking at the different types of species. So there's a lot of great species here. It's really diverse. And we're taking that into account, the health of the trees, the species, as we're redesigning the park. And we really want to make sure we protect the healthy trees, and in fact add to the health of the tree canopy, again, for those environmental considerations, the stormwater and the heat issues that Bea talked about at the very beginning. And then pervious surfaces, this is highlighting all the kind of softscape areas where water can kind of run through down into the soil versus runoff, to the storm drain. And right now we're looking at about 38.2% of the site is pervious, and just using that as a metric as we move forward into the design work. Lighting. So for lighting on Dorchester Avenue, here's a photo right up here at the top left. There are post-top lights that line Dorchester Avenue, and then Harborview Street also has a couple street lights. And then within the park, there are some really tall post tops with the new Boston Standard LED lights, and they provide pretty great light. You can see here into the space. But there are some spots around the perimeter and such that are not as well lit. So we'll be looking at street lighting. I mean, sorry, not street lighting, site lighting as we move forward. Programming. What's going on in the playground today? So right here, the main entry. On this corner, the southwest corner, that's a spot where they have the holiday tree this time of year. I don't know if anyone's seen it recently. Then there's the flagpole, which the spot is kind of right behind the canopy in this area. There are a couple picnic tables, they're blue out around the site. And then the 2 to 5 play structure. So this is the play structure for those kids who are ages roughly 2 to 5. And it is surrounded by a 4-foot high chain link fence. There's a taller fence that kind of goes around the perimeter of the property. In the middle of the space, there's the water play area with the art tiles. I'll show you a photo. Drinking fountain. And the swings in that kind of top northeast corner. And then 5 to 12 play structure. So this is for like those older kids. And then in the kind of top left, the northwest corner, we have more pavement. There's some pavement games. There's Foursquare, there's hopscotch, and there's a couple tables with chess or checkers tops. So I'll show you some photos of all those elements. So here are the swings. There's 3 bays, 4 belt seats, and 2 bucket seats. And then there's the 5 to 12 structure with some slides, a couple platforms, and then the 2 to 5 structure as well. Right, so this is just looking at the photos of all those elements I just pointed out on the aerial. The entry gateway, the pavement games. Down in the lower left, this is the flagpole base with an inscription. And then around the water play area, there's these painted tiles. The drinking fountain. Different furniture around the site, those blue picnic tables, the game tables, which are a little worn. And one consideration is with new furniture, we'll be looking at making sure those are inclusive and there's enough space for, you know, wheelchairs, strollers around those as well. And benches. There's wooden back benches in the playground right now. And then these pieces are really interesting. I don't know if any of you have, you know, anything to add about these, who made these? Do you like them? Do you not like them? Would you want them repositioned, repainted, or do you not care about them? We should get rid of them. We'd love to hear from you, what you think about all these elements that are at the playground right now. So this frog sculpture is right outside the 2 to 5 area. The painted tiles around the water play, and then the pavement markings in the asphalt area. So, okay, everything I showed you so far is the existing playground today, the existing conditions. Now I'm going to switch. I'm going to show you not photos of this playground, but some photos of some other playgrounds, just kind of get the juices flowing, see, you know, what you like, what you don't like, what you would love to see here, what you don't want to see here, just, you know, to open up the discussion. So here, do you want some, you know, larger climbing elements? Do you want a tyke loop, you know, to bike around, some more nature play, nature elements to run around, play on logs and boulders, different types of swings. This is a, you know, friendship swing, group swing. Taller, do you want height on the play structures, or do you want them longer with a whole bunch of kind of elements? With the rubber that we put under the playgrounds, we could do some funky mounding, or, you know, what kind of slides do you want to see? For the water element, do you want it to be in the wall like it is now? Or do you want it to spray up at you? Or do you want it to be kind of with a bunch of elements that you kind of play with, as these 2 girls are doing in the top right corner? Do you want a spinner here? This is a nice inclusive spinner. You can wheel a wheelchair, for example, onto it. So those are just a couple ideas. So now we're going to open it up for discussion. We're starting to get some questions and answers, some questions. So you can type in the Q&A as being mentioned, or raise your hand. And we just want to hear from you. What do you like? What do you not like? And any other information you can provide to us about the playground that we might not know. For example, are there any groups that use it at like special times of the year for certain events? So yes, we're going to open it up now.
Right. Sergeant Dunford would like to speak. Go, Sarge.
Hey guys, Brian Dunford here. I just want to point out that we had a number of issues over the summer with homeless people taking over the park. So however we go into this, we need to be aware that this was a problem. It's probably not going to solve itself overnight. So we need to make sure there's not spaces being built into this park that will give people cover to do things out of view. That would be my number one concern.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Brian. That's definitely something that we've been made aware of just by talking to sort of community members in the park, and you know, throughout this process, we've heard a lot about that. So security and safety is definitely on our radar, and we're absolutely going to design with that in mind. So
Awesome. Thank you, guys. That was my one and only concern, and I'm sure I won't be the last person to mention it this evening.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, we have a question in our Q&A that says, Ben TG says, I like the natural feel of the logs and the stones in the water section. Well, that is great. And it's really fun to sort of think of all the different options that play areas can include, you know, the different textures, the different materials. So that's great to hear that the natural sort of logs and stones is what you find appealing, Ben. Thank you. And so we also have a question from Crystal Garcia. Could you speak more to design elements that can improve inclusivity, both accessibility and for different cultures that live in the area? Thank you. So I don't know, design team, do you have some input here?
Yeah, definitely. No, we're going to be, you know, now kind of going back. So anything you tell us about like the different cultures who live in the area would be really helpful. But as far as inclusivity, looking at kind of these play elements that are, you know, on the ground level, at different heights that are, you know, tactical, that, you know, music, for example, you know, drums, other different elements that are appealing to kind of different children. And then as well as the site furniture, looking at furniture that kind of everyone can access and bring people together. I think with COVID, we're looking at seating that's like, you know, further apart so people can sit together but safely distance away from each other. It'd be helpful, you know, if anyone wants to kind of jump into the conversation and talk to us more about, you know, do you want to have events here like parties with group tables, or do you think it's important to have kind of spaces around the playground where people can kind of sit and you know, be a little bit by themselves? You know, what's if you're a user of this playground, or if you've been to it and see other people using it, what do you think is important for us to know? What's important for this community?
Okay, we have a question from Tafiq Danani, sorry. It says, hi, I live on Victoria Street and walk by the park almost every day. About the blue bikes, they remove the station in the winter and replace it with another parking spot. Getting a blue bike on Dorchester Ave is so awkward. I have to step down from the curb and there isn't that much space to position the bike off the rack and then ride onto the street. Could the design include a permanent spot for blue bikes that's less awkward? Also, side note, there is a street crossing for Dorchester Ave at the park that's really scary with fast cars. Could there be a pedestrian signal there? Those are great questions. And I know that the pedestrian signal is unfortunately not something that parks really can contribute towards. I'm guessing that's a BTD, Boston Transit Department issue. Rob, do you want to weigh in on that?
Jump in a little bit here about the blue bikes. Those are also managed through BTD. We have some limits on some things we can put in parks. There are some laws that prevent us from using transportation funding in parks. I think that's mainly to protect parks from becoming transportation facilities. So we cannot generally put blue bikes in the park itself because of those restrictions with the funding. Those are managed by BTD, and we'll share these concerns with them to find out if there's a more appropriate place to place those blue bikes.
Rob or B, I think also, that entrance to the playground right now is right there in front of them. So I think we'll take that into consideration. Where is the main entrance to this playground? How does that work with kind of all the elements around it coming up and down the street as well?
Yeah.
So if you have any information about how you access the playground, what direction you come in, that would be helpful to hear as well.
So we also have in the Q&A, Julie Ryan from Counselor Baker's office is here. Happy to be listening in tonight, and she'd like to echo Sergeant Dunford on the concerns of the homeless encampments as well. So thank you for being here with us, Julie. It's great to have you, and definitely noted that you agree with the sergeant that this is a real issue. So we agree, and we're paying attention. Thank you.
I'd also like to remind everybody, if you want to actually talk instead of type, I know for myself, I'm a little slow typer, feel free to raise your hand and we'll recognize you and give you the ability to talk. And that also goes for Julie, if you wanted to say something from the counselor's office as well.
Thanks, Rob. Do we have any hands raised, Christine?
No, not at this time.
Okay. All right. So an anonymous attendee says, I love the multi-directional spraying sprinklers. A lot more color would be great, and the natural play element is great too. It would be awesome for the space to be a multi-dimensional learning space. That is a really cool idea. Design team, what do you think of that?
Oh, absolutely. We're seeing nature play become more and more popular areas to run around. I mean, kids growing up in the city, just opportunities to be around natural elements. And then, yeah, making the multi-dimensional learning space. Kids learn and experience things in different ways, and trying to figure out ways to incorporate that in the play elements is definitely something we should look at. I also want to, I don't know if anyone has any input on, my understanding is there's a large Vietnamese, population here. I don't know if anyone has some more information about, what's right around the neighborhood, who comes to this site, things we should consider as we're moving forward into developing the design options.
Carmen Powell has her hand up. Carmen, you can speak.
Hey, thanks for calling on me. This is actually Liz Carney, but my colleague Carmen Powell using her Zoom. So I work with Dot Art. I work with Dot Art, and we use the space in the summer, particularly for recess when we have our summer program around the corner at the Little House. And I know that space is also in flux, but we love it, and the kids love it, and I'm so excited about the renovation. So I wanted to echo the interest in potentially using it as more than just a play space for in between our class times, but to actually incorporate the outdoor space as a sort of outdoor classroom for us. And we are an art program, so thinking about the tables and potentially how those could be for larger groups. I was even thinking though not for the kids, although this could be fun for them, but since people are doing so much in outdoor space for health reasons, what would be possible without like outdoor screenings and outdoor theater, and how could that just get wrapped up into some of the design? So that's just wanted to let you know that we're using the space in the summers. Last summer with COVID, we had a different site, but we hope to return to using that space in the summers, and we love it. Thank you.
Liz, thank you so much for coming. We've emailed a little bit before, so I'm really glad that you made it. And I also just wanted to ask you, what is the age group of the kids that you generally bring to the playground?
So 5 to 10.
Okay. Thank you.
And how many kids do you usually bring?
So, in our summer program, Monday through Friday, we'll have 15 kids with us for the day. For the week actually. So, and we rotate a different group in every week. So sometimes 15 will come at a time. And then of course, 2 or 3 staff at any given time to just kind of have enough eyes. So yeah. And if there's any way, since we are an art program, that if as you get closer to talking about incorporating design, would be thrilled to sort of share or, you know, give feedback or get ideas from you about how the art lessons that we bring to the kids could actually become, maybe even that the space is instructional with art elements that become sort of interactively useful to us, shapes and color. And so useful to everybody, not just kids, but so yeah, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
We also have Sergeant Dunford has something else he would like to say. Go ahead, Brian.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. My ultimate plan for Town Field was to have the Vietnamese community start having more interaction with that field. If you guys can steal that community, more power to you. There's a couple big events that you got to know about in the Vietnamese community. One's the Autumn Moon Festival. They do the red lanterns where they light them up and send them to the sky. That's spectacular if you've ever seen it. And the other one is Tet, which is like Christmas, Easter, and New Year for most Americans, all rolled into one. It's huge. It's in January. Any of these things you can incorporate and bring the Vietnamese community to your park would be terrific. I don't think you have enough room for a soccer field. That will probably be
Sounds like you have a soccer team. You still there, Brian?
Hey, there I am. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, okay, listen, long story short, there's also a restaurant called Ballet about 3 blocks away from the park. It's hugely popular. It was fixed on Chronicle, and it's been hugely popular since then. If you can ever get them to sort of branch out or start having like a food cart from the park, I think you'll see a huge increase in people using it.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, thanks guys.
Okay, let's go back quickly to the Q&A. I think, let's see, Des Rohan, hello, nice to see you again. I hear you say, as for the Vietnamese population, it'd be great to bring some cultural design elements. I do see more elderly Vietnamese folks in the morning at the park having coffee and doing some stretching. Accommodating that space for these activities would be great. Sounds good.
Jackie Westdefine.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Jackie.
Hi, thanks for having us. So I am a mom of a 2-year-old that lives in the neighborhood, and I also work with Brian in Fields Corner at Fields Corner Main Street. So yes, we have a wonderful, vibrant Vietnamese population who uses the park here at Ryan Playground. But I also see like everyone at this park. I think that Ryan Playground has like a really magic feeling. A lot of the times I love bringing my son there. And I would say that the limitations mostly now are that it just is limiting in what it provides by age. And so it'd be great to see more open space, you know, definitely natural elements, but also just things that could be used for sports, basketball or hockey. I know a lot of kids play sports. I've seen people making like makeshift half pipes in the park. And so just thinking about how people age into the space, and definitely also, you know, I don't know, I feel like I'm asking a really tall order, but we used it before we had a son. We went and walked around and walked our dog there. It's just a really great place that serves the community at large, and we don't have a lot of green space in this neighborhood, so green space is really important.
That's a really good point, Jackie. That's really true. And I I'm a mom to a 5-year-old, so I definitely sympathize with like your experiences with public space and how they change over time. You know, suddenly you become an expert in like how 2-year-olds go on play equipment. But yeah, I mean, I think it is a relatively small playground. And so we're definitely going to have to be choosy, you know, about what we install. And, you know, if it's, you know, a skate feature, you have to make sure that that's far enough away from a 2 to 5-year-old playground. And, you know, obviously all of these things have to work together in a small space. So it's great to hear that more variety and, you know, something for kids as they get older is what you'd be looking for. I think that's fantastic, helpful advice. So thank you.
Thank you.
We also, let's see, Brianne Gore wrote something earlier. She said, I love the idea of having tables with a canopy over it, similar to the park in Neponset. It really helps in the summer. So I think that that's a great idea as well. I think also what we can do just from a design perspective that's sometimes as helpful is, you know, making sure that wherever we're planting trees or locating tables adjacent to existing trees, perhaps, always trying to ensure that there's shade there, because you're right. I mean, if you're trying to sit in a playground in summertime, you know, no shade is a deal breaker as far as I'm concerned. So.
Karen? Go ahead, Karen.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Oh, hi. So thank you for having me. I am a parent of a couple kids here. We definitely been to the park like a lot. Just live around the corner, and my kids like love the park. And we're glad that it's being remodeled or redesigned to include few more things or make it more friendly for to be inclusive. All the ideas are really good, like green space. That's good. My only couple concern I have is that quite a few times we have to turn away and walk home when we go to the park because adult people there smoke. And we can't do anything about it. So that's one thing. And one time, like this is a couple years ago, my little kid went into the little playground and just start playing. They were about to get into like the sandbox, and there's a person sleeping there.
Oh no.
Yeah. They were horrified because they just like got in there and then the person just like got up and like take off the cover. So they were like really like traumatized for that. So is there anything to do can do about that? Like close the gate, or I know that I don't know. I'm just like raising my concern, that thing that we experience, and so that's to share the experience, and if we can do anything to prevent that happen to other children.
Yes, definitely, Karen. No, thank you for noting that. I should have pointed out where that sandbox was, that box in the 2 to 5 area. I think
Yep.
as part of the improvements, we're gonna not create areas where someone can hide or or sleep, and kind of increasing visibility in the playground, increasing the lighting, all of that as part of this project. No,
Yeah.
thank you for speaking.
If I
Yeah.
could,
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
if I could just add that
Thank you, Karen.
there are design elements that can be added. Some of the main things that design can do is make sure there are sight lines into the park so that when the police drive by, they can see what's going on. There is an ordinance that prohibits smoking in the park. If people are smoking in the parks, I encourage you to call the police department and let them know about that. You can also report those things through 311. If they are egregious enough and it's a safety issue, 911 might be appropriate for things that are going on, especially if they're illegal. But the police do the enforcement here for the Parks Department. So it's important when you see things like that, that you report them so that there are numbers that can be tracked and they can see what the issues are in the parks. If these things go on and nobody reports them, unfortunately, a lot of, the city doesn't know about them. You think we should know, but helping report those, it's very much data driven. So reporting those to 311 or to the police will get those on the radar of those that do enforcement. So it's very important to do that when you see those issues. And we will do what we can through the design elements, through sight lines and making sure there's no, hidden corners to prevent those issues. And generally, positive activity drives out negative activity. So more people that are using the park will cause, and hopefully if we design a really great park and a lot of people want to go there and it's very active, that it's less likely to be used by people doing bad things in the park because they don't want to be around when all this good activity is going on. They want to kind of be hidden somewhere. So that's where design can help with those issues. But if you see things, please report those to the police and through 311.
Rob, and to add to that, what you mean with the sight lines and stuff is this, I didn't mention this earlier, but this site is raised a couple feet above the surrounding streetscapes, right? Which kind of, protects people who are up there maybe at night and stuff. So as we're kind of sculpting the grades of it to make this playground more inclusive, so again, bringing more people, positive energy into the park, like Rob just said, we can also kind of improve the sight lines and views. And so it's less of this space up above the streetscape where people on the streetscape can't see up into it as well. So we'll definitely look at addressing that with the design.
Yeah, but thanks for sharing your experiences, Karen. That sounds stressful and sad. I'm gonna switch to one of the Q&A questions that we have here. Marta Carney said that she was wondering if there's any chance we could bring back one of the original basketball hoops like Downer Ave just got. During COVID, lots more inner city youth need places to play so they don't need to walk for miles. The city took down so many hoops all over the city. That's great to hear. And that, if you guys would like to see some basketball, just like a single hoop or, I don't think that the playground is large enough to accommodate a basketball court with other things. So, but that's great to know that there's interest in basketball. And I think, if you have a hoop, that's kind of a great activity for kids as they grow up and grow out of doing the play equipment. Sometimes, if you have a 12-year-old kid, that's kind of a good activity for them. So that's a great point, Marta. Thank you for bringing that up.
Carmen?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hey, can you guys hear me? This is Liz. I'm sorry. I think this is Liz Carney again, but I think that was an accidental hand raise.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. No problem.
I have a question for everyone, kind of following up on the basketball hoop question, and there's not a space to put everything, into it, but there's a good chunk of space. There's this large area of pavement, with the Foursquare and the hopscotch games and stuff. What happens in this this area that's paved, and can some of the activities that happen in it, can it be not on pavement? Or I think it would just be helpful to learn a little bit about more that west side of the playground closest to that big gateway. And speaking of the big gateway, what do people think about it? It's a really large element, and it provides shade, but in a spot where people wouldn't, I don't think, be hanging out that much, right? It's just the stairs up into the entrance. So if you have any thoughts about that huge paved area or the gateway, we would definitely love to hear them.
Actually, this is a great time to quickly dive back into the Q&A because Crystal Garcia said it would also be great if there was a large enough green area for adult programming like yoga or Zumba in the summer, etc. So that's, one vote in favor for a large open green space. Perhaps that would take the place of some of the paving. Perhaps that would be expanded out from some of the existing green space. But that's great to know that there's some interest in something like that.
Julie, you can go ahead.
Hey, everybody, this is Julie from City Councilor Frank Baker's office. I just wanted to hop on. I was going to say exactly what Rob said about making sure that you're putting it through either 911 or 311. It's really important that the city knows what's going on in these places because we rely on you to so we can address it. And exactly, it's data driven. If we know what's going on there, we can send people out. For example, we got calls over throughout the summer about people sleeping there and doing things that they shouldn't have been doing. And we addressed some of it through the BPD now has a street outreach team, which will go and there's a few of them that are assigned to the unit just to reach out to people who are homeless and struggling with addiction and things like that. So it is important for us to know. If you want me to put it through 311 or let the police know, I just want to let you know you're happy to call. We're happy to have you call Frank's office at any time. I can put his number in the Q&A. And like I said, happy to address it, but I just wanted to echo that. And I'm excited to hear more about the needs and want for Ryan Playground. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. There are two other sort of follow-up notes in the Q&A, just quickly, having to do with people who think that their one hoop is a great idea. So noting different parks that have one hoop. A Street in Southie has a great one hoop, etc. So that sounds like it's something that people are interested in. So that's great to know. Thank you to Michelle and Marta.
Michelle, you can go ahead.
Thank you. I just have a comment regarding a large open green space. I think that would be the best option as far as I'm concerned. I feel like kids aren't super into things like hopscotch. At least my kids never were. And usually when we go to parks, you don't see kids engaging with that very much. I mean, maybe if they come for the first time, they'll do it. But when they live in the neighborhood and they come to the park all the time, I feel like elements like that are not worth losing square footage for grass. I think grass is much better. We don't have much grass in the neighborhood. We have a lot of sand down by the beach. But I think so I would definitely vote for a large open green space with less paving, especially if it's something for like hopscotch, which doesn't really get used all that much.
Okay, that's good to hear. Thank you. I also wanted to read from the Q&A. We've got Ben said, it's convenient to have an entrance on Dorchester Ave, having to do with the entrance right there by the blue bikes, but would like to have a mechanism to prevent my toddler from running out into traffic. That sounds like a great idea. We can definitely look into perhaps like a gate, some kind of entry that includes a gate. Lots of playgrounds have that, and this one doesn't. And so I'm not sure how that was, how that happened, but we can certainly look at that. So thank you for bringing that up.
We don't have any raised hands at this time.
Okay, Karen Kong says, I also want to add that the children from Collegiate School come here very often. Not sure if anyone from the school knows of this planning and wants to add any input to it. I have not reached out to them as the project manager, so that is great to hear that Collegiate School is involved with this, and I will. So thank you. This is very helpful. I'll get in touch with them and see if they have any opinions or tips or pointers. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Karen.
We've heard a little bit about the age groups, that use it. If anyone has anything more to add about what they see, the age of the kids that are here, how many people are in the 5 to 12 structure, how many people are using the 2 to 5 area, that would be helpful to hear. And does anyone come and use those game tables, the one with the chess checker boards? Like, do you see anyone who's out there using them, or are they not really well used?
So Marta Carney says they're not really used. And Michelle says, I don't recall ever seeing anyone playing checkers or chess. I feel like the few times I've been to the playground, I've seen some people sitting at the tables, but not necessarily playing, like using them as game tables necessarily. Karen says, I never seen anyone using it. So sounds like sometimes they're used for picnics, but maybe not for chess. So.
What about water play? So there's this water play element in the park. With part of the improvements, we'll be looking at still having water play in this park, but what type would you like to see? And also, does anyone have any information to share about those painted tiles that are incorporated into that space right now? I don't know if you remember those. Also, as far as inspiration pictures, the spray coming up at you, or the troughs, to play with the water as it moves through like a sequence of elements. What do you guys think about that?
So Des Rowan says, the type of water play down at Moakley Park is a perfect addition to this park. I need to pause for a second. So if one of you wants to read the Q&A.
Yeah, Karen said she would love to the water play and suggested that maybe it's bigger. And she mentioned it's very crowded in the summer. So how crowded? How many kids are out there using it at a time? Kind of what should we account for? 5, 10, 20, 30 kids at the max, just as we kind of figure out how big this water play area should be. So Karen, thank you for responding. You said 15 or more. And Jackie West Divine said 10 to 20 kids at a time.
Well, we're getting a ton of great ideas in the Q&A. So thank you guys for putting them in here. I mean, the added benefit of putting things in the Q&A is it all gets recorded. And so we're recording this as well. So we have all of the information that everyone is saying every way, but having it all written down is also very helpful. So thank you.
It is. I mean, it would be great to have this kind of live discussion with all of us together. But anyways, just to kind of talk for you all, Ben said the rock fountains at Child's Water Park are nice. So that's great to know. We'll check that out. Michelle Carmel said if it were bigger, it would definitely attract more kids. Look at the size of the PJP park. Marta mentioned Moakley, which is close. And so therefore, maybe we don't do exactly what's over at Moakley, because you could walk over, use that one, and maybe this is a little different than Moakley. And then Stephanie said, yes, definitely to, she didn't say definitely, she said yes. And the water is that's the reason we go in the summer. More sprinkler park design is preferred for more room and needs to be twice its size if possible. So that's a good metric for us designers to know.
Crystal says, is there a way to make the water feature fun even when the water isn't on?
That's a great design challenge. That's a good, yes, like they can be fun. There can be areas that incorporate different textures or different movable parts. Sometimes you have, a water flowing thing that if the water is not on, you can still play with sand or toys. For little kids, there are a lot of different options there, and that's a great thing to consider. That's the fun part of designing a playground, is trying to find as much play value in these different elements as possible, trying to really bring as much as possible to a small area. So
it's so important here in Boston, because this time of the year is when, Boston Park shuts off the water play. And so to, keep it activated, keep it a place that draws, the families who are drawn to it in the summer for the water play, what can we do to draw them into that same area in the winter?
I mean, speaking of water, one thing that I've heard is sometimes community groups will come to the park and do sort of like a garden day and need water access. So we've heard that. Are there any other groups that, I don't know, come and use the park for different reasons? different things that we could design that could help that sort of activity. Something for people to think about. Write it in the Q&A or raise your hand if you want to speak. All right, well, let's see. We are looking at 7:05. Are there any other questions or thoughts that you guys have that you would like to communicate now? Or if you don't, that's totally fine. We hope that you will continue to communicate with us through the survey. Marta, thank you. It says it's difficult. We're so blessed with so many parks to go to. That's a very nice sentiment. It's a good difficulty to have, right? So I think if we go to the next slide, maybe Christine, we're just going to recap the schedule before we close the meeting. So this is our first meeting, and this is just the one where we gather your ideas and thoughts. The second meeting that we have will be in February, and that's when we're going to show some early ideas, some concepts, and we'll ask what you like about each concept alternative. And then we'll come back in late March with the preferred plan. And that's, we want to hear from you guys that we are working in the right direction. So if you check our website, and I think if we flip to the next slide, we've got our QR codes here that you can scan with your phone. If you check in on the website, we will let you know when the next meeting is. If you want to email me now and just say, hey, I want to be on your mailing list, I can definitely do that too. We should have included that on this. I guess we didn't. I didn't think about that. Abigail.chatfield@boston.gov. So we have our survey here as well. Please take the survey. Please forward the link to your friends, neighbors. Just give us as much information as possible, because that will allow us to design something that is truly appropriate and pertinent and fun and beautiful and right for this neighborhood, for you people. So
You have one more comment from Jackie. She said, I've seen people leave toys at Ryan and everyone just plays with them. If there were building/water toys like levers, pulleys, that could serve a lot of different ages and abilities.
that is a really cool idea.
Yeah, that's great. B, so on the website, there will be a link to the survey. And then also this presentation will be up on the website as well, right?
Yep.
So anyone who couldn't make it tonight, or if you want to rewatch it, it'll be up online as well, right? As you said in the beginning, in a week.
Yep, it'll be by the end of next week. It should be up. It'll probably be up by the midpoint of the week, but if you want to be sure, check it next Friday and it'll be there.
And then we're putting signs up in the park in the next week as well with QR codes for the survey. So that survey has, a number of questions that will just, again, help us as we're developing the design concepts between now and when we come back to you all in early February. It also has, just it provides an opportunity just to tell us, other things. If you think of something later tonight or, over the weekend, you can go into that survey and there's just tell us more about Ryan Playground. So we just really welcome all feedback you have. It helps us as we're working on this design for you all.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody. This has been a very, very productive, helpful discussion. So we really appreciate that. So have a good night. Take care.